Hey guys, Mr. Joe was here with another build guide for Onslaught Level 4. Today we're going to be looking at Ultimate Viessa and her Transcendent mod Absolute Zero. The goal of this build is to do lots of damage while supporting your team. You should finish with around 1,000 kills a run, anywhere from 30 billion to 100 billion damage a run, depending on how your cards fall and your team composition. If you learned anything or have any questions, feel free to comment down below. Consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel to help support channel growth. Without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off, we're going to look at Absolute Zero. This is her Transcendent module. If you don't know how it works, there's a few highlights that we're going to go over. The first thing to note is that it increases your base critical hit rate by 15%. This causes us to only need about a 200% increase with our modules, and we will get to that in a little bit. Another important factor that it changes to, and I'll show you on all of her abilities, is it changes the sub-element to singular instead of tech or fusion. She is the only descendant with 3 sub-elements, and this skill changes them all to singular, so this will be important when selecting our reactor here in a little bit. Another important change is this allows her 2 ability, Frost Road, to do damage when enemies step on the track. This is nice, but it's not going to be a primary source of damage for us. It's just something to take note of. It also removes the Ice Shackles debuff and replaces it with Frostbite guaranteed on critical hit rates rather than having to build up Ice Shackles. For the trigger mod, I'm actually going to suggest a couple different things. I use Power Beyond just because it's so easy. Your 2 ability and your 4 ability do give you stacks for the towing effect, which you get after 4. Using this with our component set's actually kind of nice because every once in a while you'll get a little bit of free MP. But if you want some other options, relative speed is also very good. If you don't know how this works, every time you hit an enemy with a slow-like ability, which is all 4 of Viessa's, you gain 1 stack. Once you get all the way up to 30, a weak point hit with a firearm causes a big AoE explosion, and it does bonus damage based off of your max MP. This was a really good option, and I kind of switch it on and off, but I set it on Power Beyond just because it's a little bit more simple to use, but relative speed is a really solid choice. For your ancestor mod, you are going to want critical hit damage and critical hit rate. For this build specifically, we want a total of 200 critical hit rate. As you see here, I only have 185% critical hit rate, and that's fine because I'm also running front lines. It gives me an extra 30. This pushes me above that 30 or that 200% critical hit rate to get us the 100% crit rate in total for our abilities. Frontlines also has the bonus of 65-ish% bonus critical hit damage, and we're also going to run skill concentration for another 115%. So between these 3 mods right here, you're going to have a lot of critical hit damage. For cooldown, we're going to be running Focus on Chill. This will also give us some chill skill power, so for some extra damage. We're going to run Sealed Consumption. This gives us skill cooldown at the cost of some of our shields. And Nimble Fingers. These 3 mods will be for our cooldown. Then for quality of life, we have Increased HP, Bio Expansion. This gives us range and HP. It's relatively new. If you do not have this, I highly recommend you get it for a multitude of builds. And then Skill Expansion for just some flat range increase. And for our last mod, we're going to be running Dangerous Ambush. If you don't know how this works, it's typically used for somebody like Sharon when when enemies are not targeting you, you gain extra skill power boost. But with Viessa, the second half, it says when used against an immobilized enemy, you gain almost 50% base skill power boost ratio modifier. Frozen enemies do count as immobilized. I am not sure if stunned enemies do, but immobilized does count for frozen enemies, so you get a lot more damage just by running this and freezing enemies. Quick demonstration of what the gameplay is going to look like with your skills. Your 1 just shoots an icicle like that, and because you hit a crit rate, it triggers your passive. You see these little 3 spheres floating around Viessa. They will just continuously keep shooting ice balls and explosions doing AoE damage to enemies. Your 2 activates this Ice Road and gives you a stack of your trigger mod. Your 3 does a big AoE that deals a lot of impact damage. And finally, your 4 does this Ice Cyclone that does some spawning damage, and then when it's finished, it does a big AoE explosion. This also gives you a stack of your Power Beyond if that is what you're running. A little bonus tip, if you want this, if you want your Viessa and other descendants to insta-cast their skills under gameplay and your options, toggle this setting on. If it's off, it does like the, you want to place it exactly where you want it, and you might prefer that. I just like the quickness of the insta-cast, so you're not slowing down just to place a skill. This is optional, this is up to you guys. I have mine turned on just because I like how smooth it is and like high-end content. For the weapon, we went with clairvoyance. This is a beam rifle that is chill element that works very well with Viessa because as you fire it, you will be reducing the enemy's chill resistance, which is really nice when you're going to be doing so much chill damage. And in Onslaught, the enemies are already weak to chill, so this just allows you to shred even more. For the cores, I run a chill in the free spot, but that's honestly a really good spot for a grapple cooldown if you want to put that there. And then I run chill rounds per magazine, which I don't do fire rate with this because I want to maintain your magazine as long as possible so you don't have to stop and reload to keep the debuff going. That's why it's not fire rate. And then I run sprint speed just to help with the movement speed buff that her 2 gives. For the readjustments, I'm actually running chill attack, firearm critical hit rate, additional attack versus Legion of Darkness. This isn't necessary. You are fighting Legion of Darkness, but it's not a substantial amount. We're not going to be doing firearm damage anyways. And then firearm critical hit damage. This is what I would run normally if it weren't Onslaught and I was using the weapon for actual firearm damage, which we're not. But still, if you want something to shoot for, this isn't a bad target. For the mods themselves, and again, we're not using this for firearm damage, but you still have to have a built weapon in Onslaught 4 to even enter. So if this is going to be that for you, this is what I run. Rifling reinforcement, action and reaction for damage, edging shot for critical hit rate, better insight for more critical hit rate, super conductivity charge for beam rifle gain speed. We will need this mod, if anything, for the level 3 stacks. Fire rate up, this is optional. I almost want to put extended mag here so you get more rounds in the chamber because we're not using this for damage, we're just using this for the debuff. Chill enhancement, chill priority, spray and pray. This gives you infinite ammo for 3 seconds after landing a critical hit rate. And then super cool plasma, this gives you chill attack and reduces the defense of the target that you're shooting up to 20 stacks. Looking at the unique ability of clairvoyance, it has a couple different effects, but the one that we care about is this chasm. So first, when you hit an enemy with stage 3 beam, you apply void gaze. At 5 stacks of void gaze, you'll add the additional effect of applied calling and chasm. What these 2 effects do, applied calling slows enemies down, their movement speeds. We don't really care about that so much. And then chasm applies a negative 40% chill resistance, which we do care about. In practice, it's going to look something like this. You fire, you charge up your beam, and then you can just keep reapplying and maintaining fire. You really only use this against tyrants for the most part. If you are running relative speed, you can use this to trigger your weak points. It's free damage on top of the fact that your passive ability is going to keep firing for you while you're shooting. For our reactor, I have plenty of skill cooldown, so I am running critical hit damage and singular skill power boost ratio to get all the damage I can out of this. If you need a little bit more cooldown somewhere, you can drop the singular ratio for skill cooldown. And if you still need a little bit more critical hit rate multiplier to reach that 200%, you can drop the singular skill power boost ratio for critical hit rate. That's like a 33% increase, and that will allow, if that allows you to hit that 200% mark that we're aiming for, I think this is a really good spot to do that. Looking at the component set, I went with Slayer. I found that the effect was stronger than Polar Knight, but we will compare the 2 in a second. First, I found the flat skill power increase very nice. It's up all the time. You don't have to worry about it. Power Beyond grants us a toe every once in a while, and those kills have a chance to give us some MP back. So that is also really nice. For the cores, we went with max HP and defense on all 4. For the sub roles, I went max MP out of combat, max HP, max MP, MP recovery in combat, defense, MP recovery modifier, and then for your fourth one, I went with shield recovery modifier. This doesn't matter, and then the item acquisition distance modifier. Alternatively, if you want to run the Polar Knight set, how this set works is 2-piece gives you a 6.2% chill skill power boost ratio increase, and the 4-piece set for each stack of frostbite, which you'll be doing with all of your abilities, has a 30% chance to give you a stack of a buff that will increase your critical hit damage by 6% all the way up to 10 stacks, which would be a 60% critical hit damage increase. Another benefit to this is you have more HP running this set. I think with my exact setup, you'll have like an extra 5,000 HP, which is nothing to scoff at. So this is an option if you feel like you need a little bit more health. The arche board, this is what I run with my perfect setup, having that 200% skill power increase. I grab all 4 of these skill power nodes. If you need to eat one to get this skill critical hit rate, I would just eat this guy and stretch it down here. This will help you get an extra 30-ish% critical hit rate if you still need that. For the mutant cell, I actually run chill chain catalyst, and high-end content, having that extra chill reduction on enemies is a lot of damage. So I cannot stress how good the chain catalysts are in Onslaught. Looking at our inversion reinforcement, I went with selective neurostimulation. This will give you some max MP recovery every 45 seconds. This is really nice considering that Slayer has a skill cost increase and MP. If you're not grabbing orbs efficiently, this does help you out from time to time. And then for survivability purposes, I'm running deployed hardened shell for incoming damage reduction, as well as combat adaptation, which does the same thing. So between these are the 3 that I couldn't recommend more to run. For notes for Onslaught, this build is made for public queue, and with that, keep some things in mind. First, you can use this to spawn kill enemies, which is awesome for speeding things up to get some fast clears. You just have to watch out that your other team isn't letting the point get overrun. If that starts to happen, you can easily use this build to pull back and play defense around the void orb in the center to recover a really bad escalating situation. For card selection, I can't stress the importance of getting skill power and outgoing damage modifier. I will say be very careful with the outgoing damage modifier mods like Rampage or Offensive Master. One of these isn't too bad, but once you start stacking 2 or 3, that incoming damage that you have to take as the price of the bonus damage can really hurt you if you're not paying attention or if you get unlucky with reviving your teammates. Another thing that I don't see anybody taking advantage of too often, regardless of their descendant, is make sure you're rolling. You get damage reduction now when you're rolling. So if you have a bunch of adds after popping an ability or they throw grenades at you and you get stuck with a grenade, start rolling for that damage reduction to help keep yourself alive. And that's all I have for this. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask them down below. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, consider liking it and subscribing to the channel to help support channel growth. Until next time, I hope you guys have fun with this build, maybe improve on it in some areas if you think you can, and have fun in the first Ascendant, particularly with Onslaught Level 4 and Ultimate Viessa.